Welcome back. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy on his way to the United States right now, his first trip since Russia's invasion nearly 10 months ago. Zelenskyy writing on Twitter this: "On my way to the U.S. to strengthen resilience and defense capabilities of Ukraine. In particular, President Biden and I will discuss cooperation between Ukraine and the United States. I will also have a speech at the Congress and a number of bilateral meetings." Zelensky's trip coming as Congress prepares to send another $45 billion in additional money to Ukraine, packed in that planned omnibus bill. Joining me right now is Stephen Zink, Executive Vice President and former Senior Advisor to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mary Kissel is here. Mary, great to see you. Thanks very much. Your thoughts on this Zelenskyy trip to the White House?
Well, I think it's a very important moment, Maria, and I think it also shows the depth of the alarm that President Zelenskyy is feeling, given some of the rhetoric that's coming out of Capitol Hill. Because let's face it, without U.S. support, whether it's on the intelligence side or the kinds of training or the military equipment that we're providing, we are the lifeline for the Ukrainian army along with our partners. And so I think by coming to the United States, his first trip since the war began, he's showing just how important that support is, and he's trying to shore it up.
So, I mean, do you think this enforces even more money to be sent to Ukraine? What are your thoughts on where this war is going? I mean, all of this death and destruction, when will it end?
Well, it ends when we give them enough weapons to actually win the fight, Maria. I mean, the Ukrainian people have shown an incredible amount of courage and valor. And let's remember why we're supporting them in the first place. I hear a lot of talk about money, and money is extremely important. Of course, we need to be careful with U.S. taxpayer funds. But Russia, led by Vladimir Putin, is an expansionist power with a massive nuclear capability that has invaded its neighbors over a series of years and is using some very loose rhetoric about using those nuclear weapons. This is an important fight. And by the way, Maria, I also hear a lot of analysts say, well, why support Ukraine? They're fighting Russia. No, they're not just fighting Russia. There is a Russia, China, Iran condominium that is forming here.
Yeah.
So this is not simply a bilateral fight. You have the Iranians supplying drones to the Russians. You have the Chinese doing exercises, naval exercises with the Russians. And meanwhile, Communist China is showing, just by sheer numbers of its military development, what its aggressive intentions are. So I think when we talk about Zelensky's trip, it's very important to put it in that broader context, because this isn't just a fight between the Ukrainians and the Russians. I think it's much more significant than that.
It's a great point. I want to talk about Iran for a moment, because several weeks ago I reported this Iran deal is dead. And I was asking all of my guests, do you believe it's dead? Now we have actual news that this deal has been completely abandoned. In a newly surfaced video from November, President Biden was seen on camera saying, quote, "It is dead, but we are not going to announce it." I announced it on this program several times. The National Security Council spokesperson told Fox News they do not see a deal coming together anytime soon, saying that they're focused on Iran's treatment of young people and their support of Russia. Mary, I wonder what happened here. Was it all of those women in the streets pushing back on those rules around headscarves? Was it this upset of the people that moved the needle for this administration? They've been trying to pursue this deal for so long, even in the face of Iran supporting Russia, partnering with China. Do you believe it is dead?
I do believe it's dead. I don't believe it's dead because of the protests or by any lack of trying on Washington's part. I think it's dead because the Iranian negotiators basically said to the United States and to our other negotiating partners, hey, we want the sun, the moon, unicorns, and rainbows. In other words, we want to be able to develop our nuclear capacity without any kind of oversight by the IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog. We want to be able to fund terror around the region. We want to be able to continue ballistic missile development. And, Maria, from an investment point of view, this is actually a good development, because what do investors want? They want stability in the region. They want stability in energy markets. We've seen a lot of upset this year with Putin's war on Ukraine, upending supplies. And so, the administration's been mugged by reality. And if this forces them to take a tougher stance and to try to constrain the Islamic Republic of Iran, that's good. good news. That is a step toward more stability in the Middle East, and that's what we want to be able to see.
Well, it was ridiculous that they were pursuing this deal to begin with. China and Russia beginning joint live fire naval exercises. Meanwhile, they're going to begin that in the East China Sea today, expected to last a week. It's happening less than a week after Japan announced an increase in its defense budget, which was significant as well. Mary, your thoughts about these exercises and how Japan fits in here?
Well, again, step back and look at the larger picture. Japan has had decades of, essentially pacifist policies in place. They've stepped back and said, we're going to not just double defense spending, we're going to buy Tomahawk missiles, we're going to buy jet fighters. We are going essentially on a very aggressive footing because we look over the water and we see what communist China is doing. And it's not just these joint exercises with Russia, Maria. I mean, you can just go down the list. Million-man army, largest Navy in the world, third largest Air Force in the world, chemical and biological weapons development, 400 operational nuclear devices, on the path to have more than 1,500 in less than a decade. It's very clear just by looking at the numbers what communist China's intent is. And frankly, we should be just as alarmed as the Japanese are. I think the only reason that we're not is because we're not so physically close to this threat that's developing. But Maria, frankly, alarm is the word that I would use. And it's striking to me to see the U.S. administration trying so hard to go back to the negotiating table with Beijing. The Biden folks sent a team over, the China head from the National Security Council and some other folks over to try to restart talks. And Xi Jinping loves this. He wants the investors to come back in. His economy is collapsing. He's like, he's inviting the Europeans over. He's inviting us over. Meanwhile, just look at the numbers of what they're building and what that says about their intent. It's alarming, and we need to pay attention.
It sure is. Well said on all fronts. I don't know when this administration is going to start calling China what it is, an adversary, not just a competitor, as Joe Biden keeps saying. Mary, it's good to see you. Merry Christmas. Thanks for being here.